My name is Violet, and I am 58 years old. I spent 32 years building a career as a lawyer in Boston, fighting for justice, winning impossible cases, making my own way in a world that often told women like me we did not belong. My retirement party should have been a celebration, a moment to look back with pride at everything I had accomplished. The ballroom was filled with colleagues, friends, people who respected me. But as I stood there, watching my son, Marcus, and his wife, Serena, across the room, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Something was wrong. I could see it in the way Serena whispered to Marcus, the way he avoided my eyes. I had no idea that in less than an hour, my own son would tell me I was useless. Before I tell you what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Are you from Boston, like me? Maybe somewhere warmer? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you have ever felt undervalued by your own family, if you have ever given everything only to be called bitter and jealous, please hit that like button. It helps me know I am not alone in this. And do not forget to subscribe, because this story gets much more complicated than a simple retirement party gone wrong. Trust me, by the end of this, you will understand why silence is sometimes the most powerful weapon we have. So let me take you back to where this all began about 5 years ago. Marcus was my miracle. I lost 2 babies before him, 2 pregnancies that ended in heartbreak and empty nurseries. When he was born in 1992, I held him in my arms and promised I would give him everything. I kept that promise even when his father died in a car accident, when Marcus was only 3 years old. I remember standing at the funeral, holding my little boy's hand, wondering how I would do this alone. But I did. I woke up at 5 in the morning to prepare legal briefs before Marcus woke up. I made him breakfast, drove him to school, picked him up, helped with homework, and then worked late into the night after he went to bed. I never complained. I never asked for help. Marcus was my world. He grew up watching me fight for my clients, and I think he admired that. He would tell his friends about his super mom lawyer, the woman who never lost a case, the woman who could do anything. When he got into Harvard Law School in 2015, I cried. Not because I was surprised Marcus was brilliant, but because I was so proud. I had raised a good man, a smart man, a man who would make a difference in the world. I paid for his education with every penny I had saved. $250,000 over 7 years for undergraduate and law school. I never hesitated. That is what mothers do. We sacrifice so our children can soar. When Marcus joined the same law firm where I worked, I thought we would grow even closer. We had lunch together twice a week, talked about cases, shared stories about difficult clients, and impossible judges. Those lunches were the highlight of my week. I loved watching him grow into his career, seeing him gain confidence, watching him become the lawyer I always knew he could be. Then, in the spring of 2019, he met Serena at a charity event. He called me that night, his voice full of excitement. "Mom, I met her. The woman I am going to marry." I was happy for him. I really was. I thought he had found someone who would love him the way he deserved to be loved. But I should have paid more attention to the way Serena looked at me that first time we met. Her smile never quite reached her eyes. The first dinner with Serena's family was in June 2019 at an expensive restaurant in Back Bay. I wore my best dress, the navy blue one I had bought for court appearances. I arrived early, nervous but excited to meet the people who would become part of my family. Richard and Patricia arrived 15 minutes late, and I knew immediately that they were different from anyone I had ever known. Patricia wore a diamond bracelet that probably cost more than my car. Richard talked loudly about his real estate development company, dropping numbers like they were nothing. $5 million projects, $10 million deals, $20 million investors. When they asked about my work, I told them I was a lawyer, that I specialized in contract law and had spent over 3 decades building my practice. Patricia smiled, but it was the kind of smile you give a child who just told you they want to be an astronaut. "So you are a lawyer? That is nice. Richard and I prefer investing. It is more lucrative." The words stung, but I told myself they did not mean to be condescending. Maybe this was just how wealthy people talked. Serena spent most of the dinner discussing her lifestyle. She had grown up comfortable, she said. Her parents had given her everything. She was used to high standards. Then she turned to Marcus and said something that made my heart sink. "Marcus, you grew up in a small apartment, right? That must have been difficult." I waited for Marcus to defend our life, to tell her that we were happy that love mattered more than square footage. But he just smiled awkwardly and changed the subject. I felt like I had been slapped. After that dinner, I tried to connect with Serena. I called her, invited her for coffee, suggested we go shopping together. She was always busy. "Sorry, Violet. I have a spa appointment." "Sorry, Violet. I am meeting with my interior designer." "Sorry, Violet. I am having lunch with my mother." I told myself she just needed time to warm up to me. Not everyone bonded instantly. I would be patient. But Marcus started changing too. He began mentioning financial opportunities that Richard could help him with. One evening, he came to my apartment and asked about my retirement savings and estate planning. The questions made me uncomfortable, but I answered them. I had saved carefully. I had a 401k retirement account with about $2 million. I owned my apartment outright, worth about $700,000. I had another $300,000 in various savings accounts. I had planned to retire at 54 and travel, maybe spend time volunteering. Marcus nodded, taking it all in, and I wondered why he wanted to know. I told myself I was being paranoid. Every mother has to adjust when her son gets married. This is normal. But deep down, I felt something shifting, something I could not quite name. The phone call came in September 2019. It was Richard calling me directly, which surprised me. "Violet, I need to talk to you about a business opportunity." He explained that his real estate company was facing a temporary cash flow issue. A major project had been delayed, and he needed $3 million immediately to avoid losing a deal with a foreign investor. The money would only be needed for 6 months, he promised. 6 months, and then he would pay me back with 20% interest. That is $600,000 profit for you, Violet. Think about it. You would be helping family and making more money than you would in a year at your firm. I told him I did not have that kind of money just sitting around. He seemed surprised. Marcus mentioned, "You have been very successful, very frugal. You must have retirement funds, property, equity." I realized then that Marcus had told them everything about my finances. The betrayal was sharp, but I tried to stay focused. I asked Richard why he could not borrow from a bank. He said the bank process would take too long and he needed the money within 2 weeks. This deal could not wait. I said I needed to think about it and hung up. 10 minutes later, Marcus called. "Mom, please. Richard is going to be my father-in-law. This is how families help each other." I tried to explain that this was my retirement money, my safety net, everything I had worked for. Marcus kept pushing. "Think about it. $600,000. That is more than your annual salary. You could retire early with that extra money. And Serena and I are getting married next year. I want to start our life with her family's support. Please, Mom, help me make a good impression." For 2 weeks, I could not sleep. I consulted with my colleague at the firm, an attorney I trusted. He told me not to do it. "These family loans never end well, Violet. You will lose your money and your relationship with your son." But I could not say no to Marcus. He was my son, my only child, the person I had sacrificed everything for. If this would help him start his marriage on the right foot, how could I refuse? I liquidated my retirement account. $2 million, but after penalties and taxes for early withdrawal, I only got $1,600,000. I sold my apartment for $700,000. I pulled $300,000 from savings. The total actually cost me $3,200,000 when everything was added up, but I told Richard I would lend him $3 million. I lost $200,000 just in the process of getting him the money. We met at my firm with my attorney present. Richard signed a promissory note, a legal document, promising to repay $3,600,000, including interest, by March 2020. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "Thank you, Violet. You will not regret this." Marcus hugged me tight. "Thank you, Mom. You are the best. I will never forget this." As I watched them leave, I felt a deep unease settle into my bones. I had just given away my entire future. But I told myself it was only for 6 months. 6 months, and then I would have even more than before. I could retire in style. This is what mothers do, I thought. We sacrifice for our children's happiness. March 2020 arrived with the rest of the world. COVID-19 swept across the globe, and suddenly everything changed. The stock market crashed, businesses closed, the world went into lockdown. And the day my money was supposed to be returned came and went without a word from Richard. I called him. He answered on the fifth ring, his voice strained. "Violet, I am so sorry. The market crashed. Everything is frozen. All my projects are on hold. You understand, right? This is temporary. Everyone is suffering." I told him I needed that money. I had paid enormous penalties to withdraw it early from my retirement account. I was living in a small rental apartment, having sold my home. I had nothing left. He promised me just a few more months. "As soon as things stabilize, I will pay you back. I promise." Months turned into June 2020, and Marcus and Serena got married. Despite the pandemic, despite the supposed financial difficulties, they had a lavish wedding. I attended, feeling like a ghost at my own son's celebration. The venue was stunning, decorated with imported flowers. There were 80 guests, all wealthy, all strangers to me. Patricia introduced me to people with barely concealed condescension. "This is Marcus's mother. She is a lawyer, works very hard." The way she said it made my profession sound quaint, like a little hobby. 2 weeks later, Marcus posted photos from his honeymoon in the Maldives. 2 weeks in paradise, while I worked extra hours to make ends meet. When they returned, they announced they had bought a house in Brookline for $1,200,000. I called Marcus immediately. "How did you afford this? Your father-in-law just told me he has no money." Marcus sounded irritated. "Serena's parents helped with the down payment. It is a wedding gift, Mom." I asked about the $3 million they owed me. His voice turned cold. "Mom, do not be petty. They will pay you when they can. Times are tough for everyone. Can you please just be happy for us?" I was 54 years old, the age I had planned to retire. And instead, I was working 12-hour days to survive. I called Richard every month. Every time he told me next month. I watched Serena post photos on social media, ski trips to Aspen, designer handbags, dinners at restaurants where a single meal cost more than my weekly groceries. But somehow, there was never money to pay me back. By 2022, I had had enough. I hired an attorney and sent a formal demand letter to Richard. Marcus called me within an hour and he was furious. "Mom, how could you? You are embarrassing me in front of my in-laws. Serena's family thinks you are greedy and bitter. They have done so much for us. How can you be so ungrateful?" I tried to explain that I needed that money to survive, that I had given them everything. Marcus cut me off. "Then work a few more years. Other people do it. Stop acting like a victim." I felt something break inside me. The son I had raised, the boy I had sacrificed everything for, now saw me as an inconvenience. I told my attorney to withdraw the demand. I did not want to lose my son completely. Maybe I was wrong to lend the money. Maybe I was wrong to expect gratitude. Maybe I was just wrong about everything. October 2024 finally came. I was 58 years old when I retired, 4 years later than I had planned. My firm threw me a retirement party at the Four Seasons Hotel in Boston. It was a beautiful event. 120 guests filled the ballroom, colleagues from 3 decades of work clients, whose cases I had won, friends who had supported me through everything. I wore a simple black dress, and stood at the podium to give my speech. I thanked everyone for 32 years of incredible memories. I talked about the cases that had challenged me, the people who had mentored me, the satisfaction of fighting for justice and winning. My colleagues shared stories about me. One partner called me the best mentor he had ever had. A junior associate said I had inspired her to never give up. I felt tears in my eyes as I listened to their words. These people saw me. They valued me. I looked across the room for Marcus, hoping to see pride in his eyes. He was staring at his phone. After dinner, people mingled in small groups. I stood with some colleagues feeling lighter than I had in years. We talked about my plans. I wanted to travel to Europe, spend time gardening, read all the books I had never had time for. One of my friends asked, "Will Marcus help you settle into retirement? Maybe take you on a trip to celebrate?" I smiled, about to answer, when Serena's voice cut through the conversation like a knife. "Help her? Why would we do that?" Everyone turned to look at Serena, who had walked up behind us, a glass of wine in her hand. Her face was flushed, her eyes bright with something mean. She continued, her voice getting louder. "She is just a bitter old woman jealous of my parents' money. Everything is always about money with her." The room started to go quiet. People nearby stopped their conversations and turned to watch. I felt frozen, unable to speak. A colleague tried to intervene. "Serena, this is not appropriate." But Serena was not finished. "No, everyone should know the truth. She has been harassing my parents about some loan for years. They helped her once out of kindness, and now she acts like they owe her everything. She is pathetic. A pathetic old woman who cannot accept that some people are just more successful than others. Maybe if she had been smarter with her career, she would not need to beg for money." I looked at Marcus, my son, the boy I had raised alone, the man I had put through Harvard. I waited for him to defend me, to tell his wife to stop. Instead, Marcus stood up and looked at me with something like disgust. "Mom, you are making a scene. This is embarrassing." Then he said the words that would change everything between us forever. "Honestly, you are useless. All you do is complain about money. Maybe if you had been smarter with your career, you would not need to beg for handouts." The silence in that ballroom was absolute. 120 people, some of the most respected lawyers in Boston, stood frozen, watching my son call me useless at my own retirement party. I saw shock on their faces. I saw pity. I saw anger on behalf of me. Mr. Harrison, the senior partner of my firm, stood up slowly. "Marcus, I think you should leave. Now." For 32 years, I had fought for my clients. I had won cases that seemed impossible. I had stood in courtrooms and argued against people who tried to intimidate me, who thought a woman had no place in law. And in that moment, watching my son's contemptuous face, I remembered exactly who I was. Not a bitter old woman, not a pathetic mother, a lawyer, a damn good one. I walked out onto the balcony. The cold October air hit my face, and I took 5 deep breaths, letting the shock transform into something else. Something sharp, something powerful. In my mind, I began organizing evidence. The promissory note signed and notarized. Bank transfer receipts showing $3 million sent to Richard's account. Emails. Text messages. 5 years of broken promises, all documented. I was not just a mother who had been betrayed. I was a lawyer who had a case. I walked back into the ballroom. Everyone was still standing, awkwardly unsure what to do. Marcus and Serena were near the door, preparing to leave. I spoke clearly, my voice carrying across the silent room. Marcus, Serena, before you go, I want to say something. They turned to look at me. I could see Serena's defiant expression, Marcus's embarrassment. I continued, my voice steady. You are right, Serena. I am old, 58 years old, and maybe I am bitter. 5 years of being lied to will do that to a person. But I am not jealous of your parents' money, because technically $3 million of it is mine. I saw confusion flicker across Serena's face. I kept talking, addressing the entire room now. In September 2019, Richard asked me to lend him $3 million for 6 months. He promised to pay me back by March 2020 with 20% interest. That was 5 years ago. 5 years during which I watched your wedding cost more than $50,000. 5 years during which you bought a house worth over $1 million. 5 years during which both of you vacationed in places I have never been able to afford. All while I worked 4 extra years because I no longer had my retirement savings. Serena's face went red. That was a business arrangement between you and my father. It has nothing to do with us. I smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Your honeymoon in the Maldives was paid for by my retirement fund. Your designer furniture was paid for by the money I saved working 12-hour days for 30 years. Everything you have been enjoying for the past 5 years I paid for. Marcus tried to speak. Mom, this is not the time or place. I cut him off. You told me I was useless. Let me show you how useful I can be. I took out my phone and opened my email. Tomorrow morning, my attorney, Mr. Harrison here, I gestured toward the senior partner, will file a lawsuit against Richard and Patricia for breach of contract. With 5 years of unpaid interest at 20% compounded annually, the amount they owe is now $7,800,000. Mr. Harrison stood up, nodding. I will personally handle the case, Violet. Pro bono. You have more than enough evidence to win. I looked directly at Marcus. And Marcus, since you acted as intermediary and benefited directly from the loan, living in a house partially funded by money that should have been repaid to me, you will be named as a co-defendant for fraud and conspiracy. Serena's voice rose to a near scream. You cannot do this. You will ruin us. I kept my voice calm. No, darling, you ruined yourselves. I am just a bitter old woman finally doing something useful. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. I held up my hand. Do not say another word. You called me useless at my retirement party, in front of my colleagues, my friends, people who actually respect me. You stood by while your wife called me Pathetic. Fine. Tell your parents to pay back the $3 million, plus interest, plus penalties, $7,800,000, or see me in court. Your choice. I turned away from them and addressed my guests. I apologize for the disruption. Please, everyone, enjoy the rest of the evening. The bar is still open. Marcus and Serena left in silence. As the door closed behind them, the room erupted. My colleagues surrounded me, offering support, shaking my hand, some of them hugging me. For the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could breathe. 2 weeks later, Richard called. His voice was different now, smaller, afraid. Violet, please, let us talk about this. We can work something out. I said nothing, waiting. He continued. We will pay you back. The $3 million, just please do not file the lawsuit. I kept my voice professional. $7,800,000. That is the amount you owe, including interest and penalties, as specified in the promissory note you signed. He tried to negotiate. That is not reasonable. The interest rate was only supposed to apply for 6 months. I smiled to myself. You had 5 years to pay me back. You chose not to. The promissory note clearly states that interest compounds if payment is not made by the due date. You signed it. You agreed to the terms. Pay in full, or I will see you in court. And Richard, I have never lost a case. 1 week later, Richard called again. He agreed to pay. He asked for 6 months to liquidate assets. I gave him 30 days. Pay in full within 30 days, or the lawsuit proceeds. He had no choice. Over the next 6 weeks, Richard sold 2 investment properties and a significant portion of his company stock. The money arrived in my account in 3 installments, each one verified by my bank. $7,800,000. Every penny. 3 days after the final payment, I received a formal written apology from Richard and Patricia. It was brief, legal, clearly written by their attorney. We apologize for the delay in repayment. We hope this resolves all matters between us. It resolved nothing, but I had my money. That was enough. Marcus sent me an email. Mom, I am sorry. I should have believed you. I should have stood up for you. Can we talk? I did not respond. A month later, he appeared at my door. I almost did not recognize him. He looked older, tired. He told me Serena had filed for divorce when she found out her parents had to sell assets to pay me back. She blamed him for not controlling me, for letting me ruin her family. He cried, standing in my doorway. I am so sorry, Mom. Please forgive me. I looked at my son, this man I had raised, and I felt something complicated. Love, grief, anger, disappointment. I forgive you, Marcus. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. You made your choice at that party. You called me useless. You stood by while your wife humiliated me. Now, you have to live with the consequences of that choice. With $7,800,000, I bought a small house in Cape Cod with a garden and a view of the ocean. I spent 3 weeks in Italy, walking through ancient streets, eating pasta, in small trattorias, feeling the sun on my face. I spent 2 weeks in France, visiting museums, drinking wine in cafes, remembering what joy felt like. I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, offering free advice to single mothers who were trying to navigate custody battles and financial struggles. I made new friends, women my age, who understood what it meant to rebuild your life after loss. Looking back now, I do not regret lending the money. I regret not standing up for myself sooner. Being a mother does not mean being a doormat. Love should not cost your dignity. I learned that the hard way. And to anyone listening who feels useless, who feels overlooked by their own family, remember this. Your value is not determined by how others treat you. It is determined by how you treat yourself. I am 58 years old. I am not bitter. I am free. Sometimes the people who call you weak are the ones most afraid of your strength. And sometimes the best revenge is simply remembering who you are. Have you ever been in a situation where family took advantage of your generosity? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that standing up for yourself is never wrong. Do not forget to subscribe for more stories about real people, real struggles, and real courage. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that it is never too late to reclaim your power. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember, you are never useless. You are valuable, you are strong, and you deserve respect.